Research reveals that women who have used acupuncture in the weeks leading up to their due date are less likely to have medical complications. They have shorter labor and less pain. And who doesn't want that?
Welcome to the Advanced Women's Health Podcast, where we empower women with the latest insights and advice on holistic health. From cutting-edge medical research to practical wellness tips, our mission is to help you thrive at every stage of life. Join us as we explore topics ranging from hormonal balance and reproductive health to nutrition and mental well-being. Whether you're seeking solutions for a specific health concern or simply want to enhance your overall wellness, you're in the right place. Let's embark on this journey to better health together. This is the Advanced Women's Health Podcast.
Welcome, everyone, to another episode of the Advanced Women's Health Podcast. I'm your host today, Dr. Allison Adams, and I'm so excited for today's conversation because we're featuring a member of my team who you may already know at the clinic, as she has been on the podcast before, too. So today I'm sitting down with Allison Adams. She is Port Credit's registered acupuncturist. Allison has a deep passion for supporting women's health through acupuncture, and she brings a wealth of knowledge and experience through helping patients with pain relief, stress management, fertility, pregnancy, and so much more. In today's episode, we're going to talk about Allison's journey into acupuncture, get to know her a little bit more, how it works to support both the body and the mind, and the unique ways that she helps women feel their best. So whether you're curious about acupuncture for pain, hormones, fertility, skin health, this is a great introduction to Allison and everything she offers at Advanced Women's Health. So Allison, welcome. Can you share a little bit about what led you to become an acupuncturist?
Hi, Dr. Alessandra, and thank you so much for having me today. I appreciate it. Well, since my teens, I suffered with almost daily headaches, and I relied very heavily on over-the-counter pain relievers. But years later, when I found out that I was pregnant with my first child, of course, I couldn't take that medication anymore. So I knew very little about acupuncture, but there was a clinic in my neighborhood that I used to drive past on my way to work. And one morning when my headache was especially bad and I was considering calling in sick, I just stopped in to see this acupuncturist to see if they could help. So an hour later, I was back on the road to work, headache gone. And then after about 10 biweekly treatments, I didn't have headaches anymore. In fact, I think I went years without having another headache. And then with my second pregnancy, a few years later, my daughter was 17 days overdue. And I was set to be medically induced. I was at the hospital. I was on the bed about to be hooked up to the IV. And it just felt wrong to me. I had a change of heart. I got off the table. I called my acupuncturist. He put in 4 needles. And 8 hours later, I was back at the hospital in labor. So, long story short, I realized the power of acupuncture as a patient. And my experiences with acupuncture had a huge impact on me. And I wanted to not only learn more about it, but bring that knowledge and acupuncture's healing capabilities to others.
I remember when we first started working together, Allison, and you had shared, especially that headache story with me. And even as you were explaining it, I got chills because it's really crazy to think about how impactful this stuff is. So I know you kind of already alluded to, some pregnancy stuff and in your own experience with women's health and acupuncture, but now you really do focus more on women's health than some of the other specialties that you kind of do in acupuncture. So what drew you specifically to women's health with Acu?
Well, for me, there was something really meaningful about helping women improve their well-being. I've seen how often women push through pain or think that pain is a normal part of being a woman. I know firsthand how stress can negatively impact every area of your life. I've seen women struggle with hormonal changes and imbalances and not get the support or help that they need and deserve. And these experiences inspired me to focus on women's health. Acupuncture is not a cure-all, but it is a powerful tool in balancing the nervous system, regulating hormones, and reducing pain. And as a firm believer in terrain theory, I like the way that acupuncture complements naturopathic medicine. So I'm thankful to be here at AWH, where the focus is on supporting a woman's natural ability to heal rather than just chasing symptoms with a pill.
Yeah. And for our listeners to elaborate a little bit more on that terrain theory, it basically explains that if the body is well and balanced, the body is able to deal with sickness and issues without it progressing to bigger problems. So, for listeners who don't know much about acupuncture, let's break it down for them. How would you describe acupuncture and how it works?
Well, acupuncture might seem mysterious to some people because it comes from thousands of years of ancient theory with its own language of acupuncture channels and substances like qi and essence, but it's really very simple. Modern research shows that acupuncture points correspond with nerve pathways, as well as tissue that's highly conductive and areas rich in blood vessels, which helps explain why needling them can produce such widespread effects. When the needles are inserted at specific points, they have the ability to influence nerve signaling. And this in turn affects things like circulation, the release of hormones like and neurotransmitters like serotonin and dopamine and endorphins. And all of these things have a very calming effect and help the body move into a state of rest, repair, and healing. So, what might seem mystical is just the body's own ability to restore balance when given the right stimulus. And in this case, that's acupuncture.
I really always love how you explain it because I think when I start to talk to patients about acupuncture and they hear chi and essence, they kind of look at me like, what are we talking about here? But there is so much research. There's so much research behind it. And building off of that, I know you often say the true medicine of acupuncture is balancing the nervous system. So, can we talk a little bit about what you mean by that? Can you expand on that?
Sure. Acupuncture works by regulating the autonomic nervous system, shifting the body out of a chronic state of fight or flight and restoring balance between the sympathetic and the parasympathetic branches. And by regulating the nervous system with acupuncture, we can direct energy away from survival responses and toward vital functions like digestion, reproduction, and tissue repair. When the nervous system is in balance, all other systems can function more effectively. So, fertility improves when the reproductive organs receive adequate blood supply, hormones are balanced, and stress is reduced. Digestion improves when the gut is no longer suppressed by constant sympathetic activation. And chronic pain can be relieved when inflammation is reduced and endorphins, the body's natural painkillers, are released.
Yes, the nervous system is connected with everything. I know my patients, and I'm sure your patients almost are rolling their eyes hearing us talk about it again because it's something that I bring up in every single visit. So we've
Absolutely.
talked a little bit about the fertility aspects. We've mentioned the pain. So let's bring it all together here. What are some of the most common conditions and concerns that people come to see you for?
Well, as you mentioned, I do see a fair number of women for fertility. Preparation for labor is another big one. Dysmenorrhea, painful periods. Stress relief is a big one. And then physical pain like sciatica, back and neck tension, shoulder pain. And then I also treat scars, in particular C-section scars and breast scars with microcurrent. Not so much for appearance sake, but for pain and here we go again, nervous system dysfunction caused by these scars.
Yeah. Okay. I have so many success stories from my patients who have seen Allison for acupuncture for all of the above things. I hope we have time to share them. We might not have time for today, but I love the widespread focus that you still keep in your practice, even though I know fertility is your bread and butter. We've really focused and narrowed it on that. So speaking of fertility, you've helped many patients with fertility and pregnancy. So let's dive into how acupuncture could support women in these areas specifically.
Sure. So infertility is a modern day issue, and both female and male fertility is on the decline. In Canada, roughly 1 in 6 couples will have issues conceiving, and that's double what it was in the 1980s. There are many reasons for the decline in fertility, but acupuncture can help, not only by improving blood flow to the reproductive organs, but by regulating reproductive hormones. And science indicates acupuncture has the ability to influence the hypothalamic pituitary ovarian axis, and thus the power to regulate reproductive hormones like estrogen, progesterone, FSH, and LH, all of which are crucial to regulate the menstrual cycle, ensure ovulation, improve egg quality, and create a healthy endometrium for implantation. Acupuncture can also reduce the risk of miscarriage by lowering stress and stress hormones that might trigger a miscarriage and regulating hormones like progesterone that create a more stable environment for embryonic development. Acupuncture also helps with some of the more common complaints that women have during pregnancy. There's a point in the wrist that helps with morning sickness because it influences nerves that communicate with the stomach. There are points in the legs and hips that can help with low back pain and sciatica. And then breech babies can be turned by needling a point on the little toe that sends signals to the uterus to cause mild contractions and encourages babies to move. Also, acupuncture helps to prepare the body for labor. At about 37 weeks gestation, some of the contraindicated points during pregnancy can be safely needled to promote the release of oxytocin and prostaglandins, which are hormones that trigger uterine contractions, soften the cervix, and relax tension in the pelvis. Research reveals that women who have used acupuncture in the weeks leading up to their due date are less likely to have medical complications, they have shorter labor, and less pain. And who doesn't want that?
I think after this episode comes out, I'm just going to send a link to it because I think that perfectly encapsulates everything that acupuncture can help with for fertility and pregnancy. And honestly, why I think it's become so well known. Like, I have a lot of patients coming in now who are either already started acupuncture in their pregnancy and fertility journey, or at least are aware of it and aware that it can help and all of these benefits. So I love that.
Today's episode is brought to you by none other than Advanced Women's Health. If you are interested in diving in deeper to your health, if you are finally ready to feel like yourself, and you are finally over hearing everything's normal, everything's fine, and you want a deeper dive into your healthcare, then we are here to help you. We are currently helping patients in British Columbia and Ontario, Canada. But don't worry, if you're in another province, still reach out, get added to the wait list as we expand coast to coast. We cannot wait to work with you. Check out the show notes for more information on how to get started.
Let's go back and touch on some nervous system a little bit. Let's touch on the stress part because that is a big part of your practice, as it is for many of ours. How does acupuncture help patients manage stress and create some balance?
Well, research has proven acupuncture's incredible ability to reduce stress by balancing the nervous system and then lowering stress hormones like cortisol. Acupuncture at specific points will stimulate nerves that increase parasympathetic activity, which is the rest, digest, and heal portion of the autonomic nervous system. And it lowers sympathetic activity, which is used in times of survival and often referred to as a state of fight or flight. I also use a device that stimulates the vagus nerve, which is the longest cranial nerve in the body, and it helps to improve parasympathetic tone through a microcurrent. Microcurrent is a gentle electrical current that is congruent with nature and our own electrical wiring. Using both the acupuncture and the microcurrent with the vagus nerve stimulation in the same treatment has proven very effective in lowering stress in my patients.
Yeah, the vagus nerve is really all the rage right now. I know a lot of people come in asking for vagus nerve support, and I love that we're able to mention all of the different tech that you have in your office too, because I always tell patients Allison has the most amazing devices that she can use, right? It's not just the traditional needles. There's things that we can do to take it to the next level as well. So
Right.
That's amazing. And I think I wanted to get into this a little bit more so we can talk about some of the other things that you use with patients now. I know that you provide some aesthetic acupuncture to our patients, and you usually use some red light therapy, some microcurrent with it. So, what are some benefits that patients can expect from those treatments?
Aesthetic acupuncture helps us stimulate the body's natural repair and regeneration mechanisms, which lead to increased collagen, elastin, and ATP. ATP is the energy molecule of every cell in your body, and I equate it to chi. It also improves local circulation for a brighter complexion, and with the addition of red light for wrinkles or blue light for acne, can over time, you have to be consistent, help create a firmer, thicker dermal layer and reduce lines and improve elasticity and tone. And then the microcurrent that I use mimics the body's own electrical signals and boosts the effectiveness of the acupuncture, as well as enhancing facial tone by stimulating the underlying facial muscles.
Amazing. So I know we really went off the deep end and we talked a lot about all of these additional components we could add to our acupuncture treatment. But maybe for those who are listening and they're thinking, I've never done acupuncture before, what do I expect? I wanted to ask this for you today because it can be maybe more of a scarier new treatment for someone to explore. So if someone's new to acupuncture, what can they expect from their first session with you?
At the first visit, I will start with a thorough consultation so I can get an idea of not only the issue that you've come to see me for, but your overall health, your lifestyle, and your goals for treatment. I'll ask questions about your symptoms, your sleep, digestion, your stress and emotions, energy, your menstrual cycle, and I will ask to see your tongue and I will feel your pulse because these are two very important diagnostic tools in traditional Chinese medicine. During the visit, I arrive at a TCM, traditional Chinese medicine diagnosis, and then we move into the treatment phase where I use tiny needles at specific points based on the diagnosis that I have arrived at. I generally like the needles to be retained for at least 30 minutes. Sometimes I use mild electric stimulation in cases of pain or injury. I can also use near infrared light and improve circulation and lower inflammation with that. And then once the needles are removed, I send the patient home with a treatment plan, which includes how many treatments would provide benefit and how often to book those treatments. I might make lifestyle suggestions for stress reduction, improve sleep, as well as diet and exercise.
Okay. Yeah. And I'm happy that you mentioned the treatment plan piece because not everything happens just in our offices, right? We need to kind of continue this treatment afterwards. So, what are some of the simple habits and practices that you recommend to patients between those treatments and their plan to support their results?
Consistency is key. And for all patients, it's better to have a series of sessions close together than to spread them out. I always make lifestyle and diet recommendations, listing things to avoid and include, and suggestions for stress reduction that they can try at home. Then, depending on the patient's chief concern, I will make recommendations like if it was a patient coming in for injury or pain, I might give them a few exercises or stretches, or even refer them to another practitioner who could be of additional help. If it were a patient coming in for fertility, I would give them a list of endocrine disruptor chemicals to avoid.
Okay. Yeah. So it's really the whole gamut, right? It's not just the acupuncture, it's the nutrition, it's the lifestyle, the physical activity, it's everything that we consider when we want to treat the whole body. So, as we're kind of wrapping up our podcast today, I think this was a lot of information for people to take in. Maybe you need to listen to this a couple times. What's one misconception about acupuncture that you would like to clear up?
That it's only for pain. Acupuncture is probably best known for treating pain, but as we've discussed here today, it also supports fertility, hormonal balance, nervous system regulation, digestion, stress, improving immunity. The list just goes on and on. So it's not just for pain.
I honestly think everyone can benefit from acupuncture. I completely agree with you, Allison. And I think that's why so many NDs love working with acupuncturists and why we have a few acupuncturists actually at some of our other advanced women's health clinics. So that brings us, I think, to the end of today's podcast. I think that covers pretty much everything in terms of an intro that we wanted to go through for acupuncture. A huge thank you to Allison for joining me and sharing her journey and passion for acupuncture. I think it speaks volumes that you found acupuncture in a time that you needed it most, and now you have a huge passion for it and to help other people with it. So we're so grateful to have Allison as part of our team at the Advanced Women's Health Port Credit Clinic in Mississauga. If you've been curious about acupuncture or for any of your health goals, whether that be not just the pain relief, the fertility, the pregnancy, skin health, digestion, immune system, really anything that we mentioned today, this is a great opportunity to book in and experience it yourself. You can definitely connect with Allison through booking on our online website. You can call us at the clinic or send us an email, which can be found on our website or in the show notes. And Allison, much like all of our practitioners, does offer free 15-minute meet and greets. So if you're wondering, is this for me? And you're still not sure, you and Allison can talk one-on-one about your concerns together before you commit to your first visit. Thank you so much for tuning in today. Don't forget to subscribe so you don't miss future episodes, and share this with anyone who might benefit from acupuncture. We'll see you next time.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for listening. I hope that you had as much fun as we did. And if you loved today's episode, share it with a friend and leave us a review. That is how we spread this message, and that is how we are going to revolutionize healthcare in Canada for women. Have a beautiful day and be well.